Welcome back to another episode of the Hormone Hub podcast, where we talk all things perimenopause, menopause, and have the conversations no one else is having. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Hello, ladies, and welcome back to the Hormone Hub. How is everybody? I think we need to take a big deep breath. I was just saying to our guests today that it's been a heavy morning, and I think coming out the other side of Christmas and New Year, it's not everyone is as happy as they would like to be, and we're going to tap into a little bit of that today. Our guest today is Emily Shine, who is a clinical kinesiologist with over 15 years experience in natural health and holistic healing. And she's really passionate about holding a safe container for people of all walks of life to heal, to find that clarity and that connection with ourselves, which is so important. And Emily is a firm believer that given the right tools and environment, the body can heal itself. And she's made it her life's mission to empower people to find that freedom in their mind, their body, and their spirit. So for those of you who are kinesiology curious, today is going to be a great conversation. So welcome, Emily, to the Hormone Hub.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have the conversation.
I know. So first up, what is kinesiology? I'm sure we've all heard of it, but like a lot of things with natural therapies, people can be a bit like, I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is. So what is kinesiology?
Yeah, it's actually a really, really good question to ask because kinesiology, unlike some other modalities, actually has a bit of confusion around it because there's a few different types of kinesiology out there. So we can have a bit of confusion about what it is that you're actually signing up for when you go and see a kinesiologist. So I'll talk about the three different types of kinesiology that are most commonly used today. There is applied kinesiology, which you would quite often have had done if you were seeing, say, a chiropractor or an osteopath. They will use a bit of applied kinesiology, which is a lot to do with muscle testing, which all types of kinesiology are, but it's a little bit more on the structural side. Then you have what they call neurolinguistic kinesiology, which is quite often practiced, a lot of it on the Gold Coast where I'm from, and that is working with the mind mainly and the emotions. And then you've got clinical, what I like to call clinical kinesiology, and that's a combination of all the different types of kinesiology. So you've got a lot of structural stuff, you have a lot of energetic stuff, you have emotional stuff. It is where you can work on basically any part of the body. So the tools that is used within kinesiology are essentially a foundation of biofeedback. So we can use your muscles to be able to connect with the inner awareness of your body and identify where there is stress factors, whether that be a physiological stress factor, a nutritional stress factor, an emotional stress factor, or even an energetic stress factor. So for instance, there may be a blockage in one of your meridian points, similar to how acupuncturists might work. And we can identify that and then simply ask your body what it needs in order to rectify or release that stress and come back into homeostasis or equilibrium.
Oh, I love that. And I think that's it. I think as natural health practitioners, we've all got a piece of the puzzle to offer. And I love just that work on and at that cellular sort of level and I guess that subconscious level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The body really does. I mean, there's a book called The Body Keeps Score, and that's one of the Bibles, I suppose, of kinesiologists, but it really does. The body keeps score. So a lot of these traumas that we experience as children, maybe we've had relationship traumas or other traumas as adults that we haven't dealt with, they can sort of rear their heads at certain times of our lives, or they can come back and be triggered by new events, or potentially you have gotten into a new phase where you're in perimenopause or menopause and you're not being able to cope with things quite as well as you normally would, and you notice that some of these old traumas are starting to come back up and you don't know where they're coming from. And that's because the body is so intricately linked with itself. So stress within the body, stress within the mind, stress within the spirit, it affects everything. So I like to say we're not two-dimensional humans. We're 365 degrees. We have to look at things from all angles.
100%. And I always sort of think that because I get asked all the time, oh, I've got all this going on. What supplement should I take? I'm like, well, a supplement is not going to fix it. We need to look at you as a whole person. How are you nourishing your body? How are you, speaking to yourself? How are you moving your body? Are you resting, restoring, replenishing, as well as getting the right nutrition as well? So there's never a magic pill. So sorry, ladies who are looking for that.
No, it's a holistic approach. We always have to take a holistic approach to our health. And I guess one of the things that drew me into kinesiology and that I love so much about kinesiology is it takes the guessing out of where to start. And I think that can sometimes be a little bit confusing and consuming for people. It's like, well, I know I've got these issues and I know I need to come at it from so many different places, but what's the priority? Where do I start? What does my body need first? And by using biofeedback, we literally get to take the conscious mind out of the equation. We get to take the guessing out of it and go directly to the source and say, okay, body, what is your priority right now? What do you need right now in order to set the best environment for my healing?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's so important because we don't often listen to the little whispers that our body's telling us. So it's generally when those whispers have gone to a big loud voice, to your body screaming at you, that we start to pay attention. Because what I'm seeing at the moment with a lot of women that I'm having conversations with is we're very capable. So we push through and we deal with all of the things and we push through and we keep going and we keep going, we keep going until we hit that wall. And it shows up as like severe hormone symptoms, or it shows up as digestive issues, or it shows up as migraines or autoimmune conditions. There's so much. And then that's when it gets serious. That's when we start to pay attention. Whereas, we listen to those little whispers earlier on, it can play a big part in our healing. Now, I'd love to dig into like that whole subconscious, and I guess that's that neuro-linguistic side of it, because I think that's something that I'm fascinated by, and again I think it's something that's quite misunderstood.
Yeah, so our subconscious mind is where we there's a lot to it, but it's where we essentially keep our emotional memories. So everything that we have stored or experienced through our lifetime will be sort of shoved into our subconscious mind. And then we also we store those emotions or those experiences within the cells of our body as well. So, we talk about things like hormones, the endocrine system, which is where we store, like we have over 50 different hormones within our body. We store all of these, or we produce these hormones through our endocrine system. I'm just looking for a book because I wanted to share it with you. And so all of these different hormones are secreted by different glands of the body. So we think of lots of different things that are glands. So we've got ovaries, they're glands. They're producing hormones. We've got the liver, that's a gland. We've got the spleen. And what we actually have, if you look at Chinese medicine, which a lot of kinesiology is based on, is that each of these glands or organs, they all have their own emotional profile in which they actually sort of attract certain emotions. So for instance, the liver is where we store all of our anger, our emotion around irritability, frustration. And you think about how people feel coming out of the holiday period right now. You've got a lot of anger and irritability and frustration coming up. And that's because we may not have been as kind to our liver as we normally are over the holiday period. This also happens when people are doing detoxes. One of the symptoms that I feel people aren't sort of warned about when they're doing detox is that they might experience anger, frustration, and irritability coming up. And it's not just because they're hungry. It's actually because they are releasing this deep subconscious held anger and irritability that they've been holding, or frustration. Resentment is another one that they've been holding on for so long, and it's just clogging up the liver. And so the emotion will actually sit there like an emotional toxin, if you will, and then the liver doesn't work properly. And so then therefore we start to not be able to methylate correctly. So we end up with, as we were talking about the other day, too much estrogen backing up and being recycled, not enough serotonin, which is our long-term reward happiness. So we start to go into these dopamine mining situations where we're trying to get these immediate, not immediate highs, but immediate happiness highs from things like sugar or alcohol or, all of these things. So it's a vicious cycle. So that, the subconscious mind is the mind that we're not consciously aware of, but is ticking away in the background and holds all of our memories, our emotions, and the things that we haven't dealt with. And it could go a bit deeper than that. We could go into things like it could hold on to generational stuff as well. So things that have been passed down through your family or even past lives, if you're a believer in such a thing, they will all live within the subconscious.
Yeah. And I just find all of that just so fascinating. And then when we're sort of like looking at clearing those blocks, what's sort of the process there? Like if we're holding on to that trauma, if we're holding on to that anger, because I'm a big believer in we release that somewhere. And whether it's a physical outlet but I think you sort of looking at it more on a cellular level.
Yeah, so there's not one way of doing this. So everybody's body is going to have preferences on how it needs to sort and release these particular emotions that are stored. But any self-care or regular self-care is going to help you. And checking in with yourself is going to help you as well. So a lot of the time we just ignore, and that's the worst thing you can do for trying to work through blocked emotions, is just pretend it doesn't exist, because then it starts to manifest physically and we end up unwell. The book that I wanted to show you or like share with your listeners is by Ina Segal, and it's called The Secret Language of the Body. And you can actually look up any ailment that you're experiencing, and there's all the emotions that are behind that ailment. And it never fails to be exactly correct as to what you're experiencing. So just as an example, you could get an injury on your big toe on your left foot, and you could go to the page that talks about that.
Okay, well,
it would talk.
Recording. Can we talk about a broken second toe on my right foot?
Well, let's just use that one right there because we've got it. So second toe, right foot.
Right.
It's talking about worries. So worries, feelings of insecurity or inferiority, difficulty belonging to a group or cause, judging yourself, watching your step, or feeling second best, not knowing who to trust or who to listen to. And on a physical level, it may experience problems with the thymus gland or the shoulders. So that could be something that you've experienced in the past as a younger person, a younger adult, and it's coming up to be cleared at this time in your life. So there's certain situations that may be triggering similar feelings, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going through those emotions right now. You may be actually ready to release them and then manifesting in your body because they've been sitting there for a long time. So I don't know if you identify with those feelings as a younger person.
Oh, as a younger person, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a week ago now, and I've been banging on about this all day because it's getting sorer. So a week ago, my husband and I were in Brisbane and we're staying in a hotel, and I've gone to the loo in the middle of the night, and I've come out and I've gone to go back to bed, and because it's dark, I missed the bed, and there was a chase lounge at the end of the bed, which looked beautiful in the daytime, but I totally forgot about it. And I've kicked my toe, broken my second toe. It's black, it's swollen, looks like a big fat black sausage, and I can barely walk. And this is a week later, and I'm like, but I had this idea in my head that I was going to get fit and I was going to start the year and it was going to be this and it was going to be that. And none of those things.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that one of the things that particular toe represents is the feeling of inadequacy or inferiority. And it's like, was there a thing around that I need to do this in order to be, whatever it is, and then not being able to do those things. It's like, oh, I can't do those things. And so what is that triggering from, past you? And this is a big thing with my clients with kinesiology, is that some of the stuff that comes up, you actually might think you've dealt with that sort of stuff before. You're like, that doesn't bother me anymore. Like consciously, I'm all over that. And it's not that you're not. You may have consciously dealt with that and you may not think about it anymore. But it's the deep cellular memory that's still living in there, that the cells are still holding on to, that your body's now ready to let go of. And so it wants to come up and be cleared.
Yeah, and for sure, like just everything that you said, 100% throughout my life, I can identify with all of that at some point or another. I know having a 14-year-old girl going through high school and the friend circle that 14-year-old girls go through, and that traumatic roller coaster of being a 14-year-old girl. Yeah, like that sort of come up fresh because I see her.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, wow, yeah, I remember exactly what that was like. So
I totally resonate with that. I have a 13-year-old boy going through, he's just finished his first year of high school, and I see so much of myself as a 13-year-old and some of the decisions that he's making, and I'm like, oh my God, I was horrible.
No amount of me saying to her, they're not your friends. That's not your tribe. You will find your tribe. But I know that doesn't help her right now because she needs her tribe in the playground when she walks out.
Yeah. So was that something that you experienced as a kid as well, like trying to find your tribe? Yeah, I'd say that's what the toe's about. The sense of belonging and the inferiority. Like it's your 14-year-old that's bringing up the wounding from your inner child from years and years ago. And it's like, oh, we need to clear this away now. And that's just such a beautiful example of what we work on. And I think even the fact that I didn't know this about you and I just flipped to that page that happened to be about
really fast.
yeah, it was just like, bang, this is what we need to talk about. Like a lot of kinesiology has a lot of energetic components to it because, we have to identify ourselves as being more than just flesh sacks. Like we have energetic components to us as well. So the meridian system that people are becoming so much more comfortable with these days, outside of non-conventional medicine is energetic. Like it is an energetic component of our body. However, we can heat map it now. Yeah. Technically, they can heat map the meridian system, so they know it exists, but it is all energetic. And then we look at things like the chakra system and our auras and all of those sorts of things as well. They're all interconnected, so they speak to each other. So yeah, we have a huge energetic component to our body as well, and that's what all of these. This I always used to say, kinesiology is like the bridge between science and spirituality. Like it's a nice little comfortable place to land if you're curious about things, but you still really like to see the evidence.
Yes. And I think that's it. And I think that's why I sort of love the world of nutrition, because there's that science there, but I also know energetically, like the healing power of foods and things like that as well.
Oh, huge healing power in food.
Yeah. So do you do online healings? Energetic healing?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Talk us through how that works.
Yeah, okay. So it is a little bit more sort of out there and a concept for people to grasp, but essentially we do it through a technique called surrogacy. So I actually surrogate your body for my body, and I can work on my body whilst talking to you. So, and then we pass back your energetic body to you at the end of the session. So it is a little bit harder for people to wrap their heads around, especially if they're not used to having kinesiology done to them, because it doesn't feel as physical. So it kind of feels like that sciencey, tangible bit's not really there. You're not seeing your muscles do these different things. But there is enough information that comes through the body that within, probably a good 10, 15 minutes of having that session, you're going to know that it's you that we're working on, because the body tells you so much information about you that there's no way possibly that I could know that. There's just no, and I'm not psychic. Like it's not, a lot of people coming to kinesiologists are like, are you psychic? No, we're asking your body directly. Like we're just asking your muscles. So essentially we can ask the body a question. Let's say it's a yes or no question. Yeah. And what the body does, the muscle will either contract or it will release based on whether or not it's a yes or a no.
Yeah. So
we could say
body for feedback.
Yes, exactly. So that could be something different. I could be asking about a meridian. So I could identify there's meridian stress, and I could ask all these different, what we call alarm points, which allow us to access each meridian. And we could wait for a muscle response to tell us which meridian is the one that's needing work done on it. And then deeper into which meridian point needs to be worked on. And then we can find out what that point represents. And it's always exactly what we need, exactly what the person's struggling with. So it's very cool.
All right. Well, I might have to get you energetically talking to my toe.
Yeah, look, I've seen some amazing things. Structure is actually one of my favorite things to work on. Some kinesiologists shy away from it because it can be a little bit like, oh, you've got to get these results for people, otherwise they don't come back. But I love it because it is so tangible for people. Like they come in, and I've seen people with neck pain who have had neck pain for years and years and years, and they have like 1 or 2 sessions of kinesiology and it's gone, and it's because it was emotional in that sense, that there was emotional stuff that they hadn't shifted. So I love it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Amazing. Fascinating. All right. So, Emily, where can people find you?
Okay, so on Instagram, they can find me at Emily Shine Kinesiology, all one word. And then I can also, my website is probably the easiest place, honestly. It's everything's on there. So it's just emilyshine.com.
Yeah, beautiful. And we will make sure that we pop that in the show notes. So emilyshine.com. And is there anything else that you'd sort of like to share or elaborate on?
I guess just for since we're starting off the year with this podcast episode, I guess I would just like to say that, you know, as we were talking before we hit record, that 2023 for a lot of people was quite difficult. And those of us in Southeast Queensland have also been hit with some pretty crazy weather towards the end. And there's a lot of high stress going on. And you know, people, and as you were saying, it's been a heavy morning. There's a lot of people out there with trauma. So definitely, if that's how you're feeling, you know, take the time to practice some self-care, reach out to some professionals for help if you need it. Don't feel guilty. And also don't allow yourself to have this perception that because the year has started this way, that it's going to continue. If you want to look at things from an astrological sense, 2023 was meant to be quite a tricky year from a numerology and astrological compass. And apparently the shadow of that kind of carries through January. So let's just all pretend that we start the year in February. So if you're having a tricky January.
Doing that in 2022 as well.
Yeah, we're starting the year in February and it's actually supposed to be a beautiful year, 2024. It's an 8-number year. It's all about abundance. It's about the calm after the storm. And isn't that so, you know, adequate for all of us who have just been through some massive storms physically? Yeah. So, yeah, I hope everybody has a beautiful year. But if you're not feeling it right now, just hang in there for January and things should feel a bit lighter come February.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think that's, you know, to have that uplifting, you know, something to look forward to is a really nice thing and something a lot of us could do with right now. So thank you for coming and shining your beautiful light on us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, that's okay. Our pleasure. And yeah, like I said, if you'd like to reach out, you can find Emily at emilyshine.com. We will have her links and her details in the show notes as well. So thanks for listening, everyone. And thank you so much, Emily, for coming on the Hormone Hub.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hello, I see you there, juggling work, family, life, all while navigating perimenopause and menopause. But guess what? Maybe it's time to break up with the hustle and grind. Going on a retreat is more than just about a vacation. It's an investment in your well-being and a step towards a happier, healthier you. So take a moment, consider the benefits of a retreat and give yourself the gift of rejuvenation and self-care. Self-care is all about giving the best of you, not what's left of you. I want you to save $500 now, jump in for the Reignite You Retreat. We're running in Bali in April 2024 and October 2024. And yes, we sure do have payment plans available. See you there. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. You can head on over to the show notes at kyliepinwell.com/podcast where you'll find all the links. Now, before we go, it would mean the world to me if you'd head on over to your favourite podcast channel, subscribe and leave a review. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Then stay tuned for next week's episode and can't wait to see you then.